Hello, welcome back. Today I will be talking about the pros and cons of studying a master's program in various countries. I can't speak about everywhere. This is a master's program as a singer, of course. I really can't speak about everywhere. I can only speak about what I myself have done and what I have learned from other colleagues and other friends. So, in Germany and in other EU countries, the greatest benefit of doing a master's program in one of those countries, especially if it's in Germany or Austria, is the price is very low compared to what you would be paying in, say, the US, Canada, Australia, etc., or the UK. Very expensive. So cost is huge. You don't want to be saddled with debt or make a huge financial sacrifice to do a degree that you can also do somewhere else. Most of the master's programs in Germany are actually associated with an opera house. So if you're doing an opera master's, you can usually get a very clear, wide open doorway into auditioning for a young artist program, or certainly coaching with the right sort of people who can then recommend you to other people, etc., etc. This is how you get auditions. There's another video about how to get more auditions and networking in the video library available or coming soon. I don't know. So making those industry connections and doing that networking is super, super important and really helpful and will be one of the most valuable things that you have in your career. So I really recommend that singers do their studies in a place like Germany, just because of the access that you have and also the proximity to auditions for young artist programs and choruses and whatever else you want to be doing. So that's super important. So the cons of doing an audition, can't speak anymore. The cons of doing a master's program in Germany is that presumably you're not German if you're thinking about doing this and you're watching this. You are going to be very far away from home, and there's all of the difficulties that come with living away from your family and your friends and where you grew up. But personally, I think that it is well worth the sacrifice to do that. And we have technology, so I know it's not the same, but it makes a big difference to be able to FaceTime your loved ones. So don't let that be a deterrent for you. But if you come over and you realize that it is, that's okay too. You have to try so that you know. That's the only thing I want from you. I want you to try so that you don't feel like you don't wonder what could have been, if I'd only just. That's the sort of thing that keeps a lot of people awake at night and haunts them. So don't do that. So the pros of doing a master's program in Australia is that you get to be in Australia, which as an Australian, I really recommend. It's an extraordinary country. I love it. It is, however, very, very expensive. If you're Australian, you can get help, as in you get the help debt or the HECS debt, so that you're paying for it later, and the government pays for it at the time. If you're an international student, it is going to be eye-wateringly expensive for you, and I probably wouldn't recommend that you do that. If you can find teaching that is closer to you and going to be less expensive, then I would recommend that you do that, because like I said, parting with huge amounts of money and being saddled with huge amounts of debt is really hard. And I will get into this more in another video, but the reality of being a singer these days, an opera singer or a classical singer, is that you do not make huge, extraordinary amounts of money anymore. The only people who do that are the top 1% of the top 1%, who have had very long careers or who are absurdly famous and can ask for a huge amount of money. So the vast majority, your average salary, you're looking at maybe starting at 45,000 euros a year, more or less. You might end up on 60-ish after a couple of decades. So keep that very much in mind, and don't put any more financial strain on yourself than you can. Okay? Not everyone, I don't have a master's degree. I skipped masters actually. I did my bachelor's degree, and then I competed and did the freelance thing in Sydney for years and years, and then I decided to move overseas, and I did get a postgraduate degree in Belgium, But that was just off the back of the pandemic. Everything was really uncertain. And also it was heavily performance-based and I didn't have to write another paper. I've already written a paper, done that once. So that suited my needs at the time and it wasn't too expensive. So I really recommend that because having debt does get really difficult to deal with. So yeah, but the pros of studying in Australia as a native Australian, of course, is that you get to be at home and that's great. And there is a lot of good stuff to be found in Australia. It is just a very small music community compared to what you can find in the Northern Hemisphere. So keep that in mind. So in the USA and in Canada, I know that in the USA in particular, the pedagogical history and standard is really, really extraordinary. So you are pretty much guaranteed to get incredible teaching or learn incredible stuff and build your voice very reliably and have a very good technique. I will go into more detail about toxic teachers and mentors though, because in another video, because that is also something that you really need to be aware of. I'm not saying that just in the US. I found so many in Australia. So that's also something to be aware of. And it is very competitive in the US as well. So that's just something to be aware of. So in the UK as well, it's pretty similar. Oh, and sorry, the only con about the US is the cost as well. It's literally astronomical. But I mean, you know, if money is no object and you really vibe with a teacher over there and you really want to learn with them, then all power to you. And I really hope that it's everything you want it to be. But remember, a lot of everything being what you want it to be is in your control as well. So make sure you make it that way for yourself. So yes, my last point is about the UK because I did a lot of auditions in the UK and decided I did get two places actually for a master's program, 2 master's programs, one in Wales and one in Manchester, but I decided not to go through with it because of the prohibitive cost. If you're not getting at least a half scholarship, especially as an international student who has to pay huge fees to study, they don't want you, they want your money. They do not want to teach you, so don't bother. But that being said, in the UK, the teaching is extremely good, extremely good. The standard is extremely high. And also the UK schools have an incredibly good reputation, which does still count for something in the industry. And a lot of them have pathways to working in UK opera houses as well, which is a super useful thing because that's the real work, is finding the work once you're ready to do the work. So that is all stuff that you need to think about before you decide where you're going to go. I would say, as a blanket rule, do not go into debt, huge debt if you can't. If you're going to like 5,000 euros in debt, that's all right. That's, you know, something that can be dealt with. But your realistic prospects for earning money are not enormous. So don't take on an enormous debt for that sort of thing. So yeah, have a good think, make a good budget, and make the right decision for you.